Hey, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Topics today include shooting, scooting, and disputing.
Wrong! It's the wrong podcast, but we'll make it right. Spinning the world in a whole new light. Witty, wild, and a little askew, and the one who's right, it might be you. It might be you.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm here to talk about politics, culture, religion, sports, and anything else you're not allowed to talk about in polite company. Issue number 1! Inspirational! Hey, I have to tell you about this guy, Dayton Webber. Dayton Webber is truly an inspiration. I might go so far as to say he's an American treasure. Dayton, when he was young, like around 3 years old, he developed a bacterial infection and had to have all 4 limbs amputated, his hands, his feet. And despite that, Dayton became a professional cornhole player. Real quick, we got to talk about cornhole. It's a very simple game. It makes a lot of sense. I think the only reason it has popularity is because of the name. We all think it's kind of secretly funny to call it cornhole. And so we're just looking for an excuse to say the word cornhole. Kind of reminds me of Norm Macdonald and his favorite occupation. But that's a different story for a different podcast. Anyway, cornhole. Dayton, he's a professional cornhole player. Listen to this inspirational introduction to who Dayton is from no less than ESPN. Here you go.
I'm Dayton Webber, and I'm a professional cornhole player. I had gotten a bacterial infection when I was just 10 months old. The infection that got into my arms and legs was called Streptococcus pneumoniae. They had actually given me a 3% chance of living, and the only way that they were able to save me was by getting the infections out of my system. They had to amputate my arms and legs to keep me alive. I'm thankful for the Lord and giving those surgeons the power that He did that day to be able to make such a miracle happen. Inspiration to me is a daily driver. I believe that God put me on this planet for one reason. Everybody's got their reasons for being here, but my reason I feel like is to inspire other people just by me doing my daily task. I want them to have the sense of I can go out there and do anything I put my mind to. If they say, I want to go out and become a pro cornhole player now, I want them to look at me and be like, I can do it. I know I can. Anybody can play, anybody can win.
Now, Dayton recently made the news because, unfortunately and tragically, he murdered someone. And we know he murdered somebody because there were 2 people in the backseat of the car when he murdered this guy. They were in the backseat and Dayton was driving and he got in an argument with the passenger and Dayton pulled out a gun and shot the passenger and then pulled over and told the 2 people in the back, hey, I need your help getting the body out of the car. Now, these 2 people in the back of the car did exactly what you would do in this situation. They got out of the car and ran. They said, we are not helping you, and they ran away. So Dayton he drove another couple miles, and somebody found the body in their front yard. And somehow the police figured out, I guess because of the witnesses who were in the backseat, they called the police. Dayton was found at a hospital having a medical emergency. So probably he said, I'm going to jail for a very long time, and took himself to a hospital and said that he was going to kill himself. And there is a part of the story that maybe you didn't catch. Dayton was driving the car. He shot the passenger. Dayton was driving the car. Dayton is a quadriplegic. Not a quadriplegic, he's a quadruple amputee. Those are totally different things. This story would be much different if he was a quadriplegic, let me tell you that. Impressive enough that he is an amputee. He's a quadruple amputee. He was driving the car and shot somebody. It's no wonder this guy was able to turn pro as a cornhole player. The skill, amazing. I have so many questions about how he's driving the car. If you want to see video of him shooting a gun, he unfortunately posted some video of himself shooting a gun, so we know that this is possible. He can both load the gun and shoot it. I will include a link to that video in my show notes. And let me just say, this story has everything. Of course, it's going to be talked about on the wrong podcast. It's got sports, it's got true crime, and it's just weird. Issue number 2! Better bet on it. Hey, let me explain something in the financial world and in the stock trading world. There's these things called commodities, and they have a global market. The basic idea is, if you're a farmer, you plant some soybeans, let's say. In fact, this was the plot. It was a major plot device, I should say, of a Steinbeck novel, East of Eden. The idea is, you're a farmer, you plant some soybeans. You plant in the spring, you harvest in the fall. You don't know what things are going to be like economically in the fall when your soybeans eventually appear. And this works for all sorts of stuff. Pineapples, I think it takes like 5 years to grow a pineapple. So what a savvy investor does is they go to the farmer and say, hey, soybeans, they're selling for, I don't know, I have no idea what soybeans sell for right now. Let's say $1.50 a pound. I will go ahead. You don't know what the market's going to be like in October. From what I can tell, there's a recession coming, and I think the price of soybeans is going to go down. So I'm willing to buy your soybeans ahead of time, even though you haven't grown them yet. You just make sure you deliver 2 tons of soybeans to me, and I will pay $1.45 a pound for those soybeans. And the farmer says, well, yeah, I'd rather have $1.45 for sure. It's a good idea to sell right now that I know I have it. And then the futures trader, he can later on, the fall comes about, a war breaks out, as is the example in East of Eden. World War I breaks out, and this young man has invested, he's bought all these shares, these future shares of soybeans, and he's able to sell them to the United States government for the war effort at $2 or $2.25 a pound. So he makes a massive profit. And some people might say, well, the farmers really got ripped off there. They could have been selling at $2.25, and they did not get ripped off. They made a choice. They made a calculated decision. They bet that it would be better to go ahead and to sell for $1.45, and the speculator, he made his own gamble that he could make more money later on. This is, some people might say that stock trading and commodities trading is gambling, and there is a point. There is a certain amount of risk involved. I bring this up because there are 2 web applications. They're companies, they're on the web. I don't know what to call them anymore. They're companies. Why do we have to say they're websites? They're just companies. Everybody uses websites now. We don't have to say that Amazon's a website, right? Amazon's a company. Anyway, derailed. Back to the point. Polymarket and Kalshi are these 2 major companies that you will know about. They are becoming extremely important. And the idea for both of them is that you can bet on events. And that's kind of what happens in the commodities market. You think that war is coming in the Middle East, and so you buy up oil shares at a cheaper price, hoping to sell them later on when war actually does happen. Ukraine just destroyed 40% of Russia's export capability of oil and gas. So the price of oil and gas is going to go up because Russia can't export it. And even if you don't buy The United States doesn't buy oil and gas from Russia. Other countries do, and so now they're going to have to come to the United States to get oil and gas. So the price is going to go up. And if you bought at a cheaper price, you can now sell at a more expensive price. And Polymarket and Kalshi said, yep, that's exactly what we're doing. We're a commodity exchange. Except we're not actually working with the commodities. We're just working with the events. So you can put a bet down that Ukraine will destroy another 15% of Russia's oil and gas exports by, let's say, April 15th. And you can put that bet down right now, and other people can say, no, it's not going to happen. And so you're not actually betting on the commodity, you're betting on the event. And this is all legal because it's happening on the commodities market. It's being regulated by the commodities exchange. How this is a commodity doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's an event, but that's the legal loophole they're working with. So how this works. Okay, you say, hey, I bet Godzilla is going to attack the Bahamas, and that's going to happen by May 1st. And you put $1 down. I'm betting $1 Godzilla attacks the Bahamas May 1st. All three of those things have to happen. Godzilla can't be King Kong, has to attack the Bahamas, can't be Mexico, can't be the Philippines, has to be the Bahamas May 1st. Can't be May 2nd, can't be, it could be April 30th, but it has to happen by May 1st. And somebody says, no, there's no way Godzilla is attacking the Bahamas by May 1st. I'm going to bet $1 that doesn't happen. So you put your $1 down that it will happen. I put my $1 down that it will not happen. Whoever's right gets the $1 from the other guy. Well, there's a bunch of other people who say, no, Godzilla is definitely not attacking. So they all bet their dollars against your first original $1. And that means my share is going down. Everybody's getting a little bit less money. We're not getting a full $1 from you now. 10 people are betting against you. We're all going to get 10 cents. Well, let's scale up the numbers. Okay, so I put in, real quick, let me just explain. So 10 people are betting no, that won't happen. May 1st comes along, Godzilla doesn't attack. Your $1 gets split up between all of us. So I put down $1 to win 10 cents. Okay, let's scale this up a little bit. Let's say 100 people get involved and 65 say, no, it's not happening, and 35 say, yes, it will happen. Well, over time, let's say April 28th comes around and it's getting close, and I own the no share at 65 cents. I could sell that share for 80 cents because it's getting really close and nobody's ever seen a Godzilla ever in the world. So the odds are going up in my favor. So more people want to buy. So I can actually sell my share early and just make 15 cents. This is what's happening on Kalshi and Polymarket. People are coming up with their own ideas about what kind of events might happen, who's going to win which election, how many electoral votes they'll get. You can bet on how many points will be scored in the Super Bowl. Now, that's an obvious sports gambling thing, but you can go deeper. You can bet on who will be the guest singers during the halftime show, the unannounced guest singers, along with the halftime performer. And somebody did that. Somebody bet that 7 different people would be guests at the halftime show, and they got 6 of them correct. And hopefully they split those up into 7 separate bets. And this is getting even more darker and convoluted than that. So somebody had insider information about the Super Bowl halftime show, went to Kalshi or went to Polymarket, said, hey, I'm betting that Lady Gaga will show up. They have insider information. That's against the law. If you have insider information, you're not allowed to use it because you're actually stealing money from somebody else. You're stealing money from the person who says, no, Lady Gaga will not show up. I happen to know she's in Brazil. It's stealing. It's wrong. You will get convicted if you're caught doing it. Well, there have been people who have 100% track records for when Israel will attack its enemies. There are people who bet big. They bet really big on Trump's announcements regarding Iran. And this is why this will become a very big deal. This is all happening. It's somehow legal under dubious reasonings that it's commodities trading, and people are manipulating the system. I think it's very clearly gambling. I think gambling is unethical. I think it's impossible to gamble without taking money from somebody who will be addicted to it, who will be manipulated by it. I think you just have to avoid it entirely if you don't want to be responsible for taking somebody else's money. You're not taking Polymarket's money. You're not taking Kalshi's money. They make their money on fees. You pay a small fee to put this bet down. That's how they make all their money. They don't care if you're right or wrong or what kind of ridiculous circumstance you make up. All they care about is getting the fee from you. The money that you actually win is from other people. And people are very clearly manipulating the system, and the Trump administration has said, no, we're not going to investigate that stuff. It's not that big of a deal. Who cares? The problem with them saying that is that Donald Trump Jr. is heavily invested and aligned with both Kalshi and Polymarket, and the Trump organization itself is coming out with a predictions market itself. So the Trump family is invested in this. And I'm not alleging that anybody within the Trump organization is doing insider trading, but I think it's very clear that Trump's motif, his MO, is that he does not care about corruption. As long as you are loyal to him, you can be as corrupt as you want. I think that's plainly true. Go look at Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon defrauded MAGA people who wanted to build a wall. He took money from them and defrauded them, and Trump gave him a pardon. Bannon defrauded Trump's own base and still got a pardon. There's many examples like this. Corruption is just not that big of a deal to Trump. And prediction of my own that I'm not putting on Polymarket, maybe not a prediction, I'm throwing this out there. Look for this later on. Let's say the Democrats take control of the House and perhaps the Senate in the fall. They start up their new session next January 2027. And the Trump administration is flat out refusing to investigate insider trading on the commodities market regarding Polymarket and Kalshi. Could this be the plot? Could this be the plot line of impeachment number 3? We'll have to find out. Hey, it's time. What are the rules?
Oh, what are the rules? What are the rules? Don't touch my fries or my garden tools. Oh, what are the rules? Yeah, I got my quirks. Follow them closely and I promise it works.
I don't know if you go on LinkedIn at all. I do occasionally, and let me tell you, I get confused. I get confused by one thing in particular. And that is when I look at what somebody's doing and I look at their job title and I have no idea what it means. And I'll be honest, there are times in my real life outside of LinkedIn where I ask somebody what they do and I have no idea what they're saying. I'm not sure they know what their job is. The conversation will go something like, hey, so what is it you do? And they'll say, oh, I'm a senior network solutions architect. Oh, so you're in architecture? No. We do strategic solutions. Well, what's that mean? Well, I work for a strategic bridging company. So you build bridges? No. We mostly drive cross-functional alignment to optimize stability and scalability. Okay, I can't ask any more questions. I feel like an idiot. So I turn to Claude. Claude, tell me, what does a senior network solutions architect at a strategic bridging company do?
What a fascinating question. You really are rubbing elbows with some inspiring and game-changing people. A senior network solutions architect at a strategic bridging company spends most of their days responding to emails.
Remember, I want to know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with you?
If you'd like to submit a question, topic, or tell me how I was wrong, you can email me at listen@thewrongpodcast.com or submit a comment at my website, thewrongpodcast.com. And help me spread the wrong message. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show. I was wrong.
I was wrong. Oh, I was wrong.
Got a comment from listener Eric about the homemade bidet. This is what Eric had to say.
Best line. He had, given himself a generous portion. LOL.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for appreciating my phrasing. Hey, this is, I have nowhere to place this. I'm just going to put it here. This is a good point to talk about this. There's something I don't like about myself, and it's my brain. My brain will not shut off. And I have a better than average memory. And the problem with having a better than average memory is that I remember every cringe moment of my life. And in the quiet moments, sometimes it doesn't even have to be quiet. Just my brain will find a way to sneak attack me and jump on me and remind me of something I did when I was 11. And I don't know what to do about this. I've tried many strategies, and my brain is just convinced that it's against me for the rest of my life. Of course, well, if you have a solution, I'd love to hear it, first off. If you have a solution. Here's one thing I tried. I tried to be creative about it. So I created a new song on Suno. I'm going to put the full song at the end of this episode. I'm going to play a clip now for you just to tease it, but if you want to hear the full song, it'll be at the end of the episode. Just to note, when you get to the end of the episode, you might be listening at 1.5 speed or 1.25, and I've found that with music, you want to turn it back down to 1 because the beats might get all off and the song will get weird. But I hope you enjoy my song. It comes at the expense of my own personal problem.
Yo, I'm just trying to chill, let my mind be still. Then boom, out of nowhere, here comes the real flashback, attack, brain playing its tricks. Like, why the hell am I thinking about this? I'm back at the party, I'm 7 years old, blowing out candles. Wait, that ain't my own. Mom yanking me back, whispers in my ear. That ain't your cake, son, great disappear. I didn't ask for this, nah, I never signed up. Why my brain gotta dig all this cringe back up? Ain't no warning, ain't no cue, ain't no button to skip. It just hits and I sit in this shame I relive. I didn't ask for this, didn't need that clip. Didn't wanna rewatch me being dumb as a kid. Didn't ask for this, brain, give me a break. I ain't need that reminder, it's a slap to the face.
Issue number 3. Trust the science. Hey, there was an article just a couple of weeks ago in the New York Times. That's right, in the New York Times. And it was not a news story, it was an opinion piece, but still, it was in the New York Times. And the thrust of this article was about how many trans activists have really pushed around the phrase, trust the science. The science is settled. There's no more discussion about it. Just move forward with the science. And he pointed out that many of the recommendations by medical associations cited reports, medical reports, and the policy recommendations, the treatment recommendations from these medical associations oftentimes actually directly contradicted the findings of the reports that were cited in their recommendations. And it's been very difficult to get them to talk about this. And recently, there was a court case that was won by somebody who detransitioned, who felt like they were given medical treatments as a minor that were not appropriate. And they won a $2 million settlement. And very quietly, many of the medical associations quietly, and I emphasize quietly, changed their policy statements or their treatment recommendations. And this journalist, he documents these changes that have taken place. And really the thrust of his article was, one, that these changes are taking place and that they're happening quietly and nobody's talking about why or what prompted the change or where the original recommendation came from. And the other thing he kind of hits on them is the use of this phrase, trust the science. Hopefully we have moved past the pandemic enough, but I doubt it. I'm sure the phrase itself is triggering to you in one way or another. Trust the science. And in general, I trust the science. I think we should trust what scientists say. In general, I think it's a valid statement. I absolutely understand that some people misuse the phrase and say, hey, there's no more discussion about anything. And when it comes to science, that can't be what trust the science means. Science is always provisional knowledge. It's the best knowledge we have currently. And that's not even what science is. Science is a method for coming to knowledge. But the general idea is that scientific, wow, I just lost the word for when everybody comes together on a unified thought. Somebody's screaming at consensus, scientific consensus. Phew. Gosh, I was going to be up late night thinking about the word consensus. Anyways, the scientific community has come to consensus on something, and this is what we should do. And yes, let's do that. Let's do that. That's the best that we have right now. Things might change in the future. And three stories that come to mind really emphasize this point, that things might change in the future. And it also calls into question how much confidence we can have in something that's declared as settled science. The first is something called cognitive dissonance theory. Now, this one is super important to me because it makes all kinds of sense to me. A big question for me, a big question for this podcast is, why can people not change their minds? What keeps people from changing their minds? And cognitive dissonance theory makes a lot of sense out of it. And the phrase cognitive dissonance came out of this social scientist named Leon Festinger. That's just a gross name. It sounds like pus somehow. Leon Festinger. If your last name is Festinger, I know it's not your fault. You didn't choose it, but go ahead and find a new last name. Because Festinger, some of you are like, please stop saying that word. That's so gross. It doesn't even mean anything gross. It's just somebody's name. Festinger. You're welcome. He came up with this idea of cognitive dissonance. And what he put forward was that people get trapped by their own beliefs. They believe something, and then some sort of information, some sort of knowledge comes up that contradicts what they believe to be true, and they're stuck. And they have this thing in their head that has to wrestle through. They have to find a way to deal with two things that they believe that are in conflict with one another. And he came to this theory, he came to this idea of cognitive dissonance because there was a UFO cult. And they were led by a woman named Dorothy Martin. And Dorothy said that she was receiving messages from extraterrestrials called the Guardians. And the Guardians were telling her that a great flood would destroy the earth. And everybody needed to get ready for this flood. And the Guardians were kind enough to tell her exactly when this flood was going to strike. And that was going to be at midnight on December 21st, 1954. And she also said that any true believers in the Guardians, they would be rescued by flying saucers at midnight before the flood struck. Maybe the flood was going to happen at 3 a.m., but they would be rescued just before the flood happened. And as you know, because this is well past 1954, no flood came to destroy the earth on December 21st, 1954. And Festinger was investigating this group. He was observing what was happening. And what he said happened is that many of the group's staunchest defenders just became even more committed after the flood did not happen. In fact, this whole thing comes to mind because I heard somebody talking about cult mindsets, and he used this example. And this is how he described what happened with Festinger.
Every cult leader makes promises they can't keep. In 1954, a woman named Dorothy Martin told her followers that a UFO was coming December 21st to rescue them before the world flooded. Some sold their houses, others quit their jobs. They gave up everything to be ready for the event. December 21st came, nothing happened. No flood, no UFO, just silence. Psychologist Leon Festinger was watching from the inside of the group. He expected them to walk away. Instead, the most committed members became more devoted. They called newspapers, preached harder, recruited strangers off the street. Festinger called this cognitive dissidence. And here's the part that matters. The members who gave up the least walked away when the prophecy failed. The ones who gave up everything doubled down forever. Because admitting you were wrong is painful, but admitting you destroyed your life for a lie is unsurvivable.
And that's a good summary. Festinger's idea was that the people who were most committed to an idea, they double down. If they've given up a lot, they give up even more. They just go harder because they've already sacrificed so much. They can't imagine giving up the idea after all they've sacrificed. And what is tragic about this story is it is completely false. Festinger was making stuff up. Just absolutely making stuff up. Somebody went through his personal documents just last year and wrote a new book based on all of his personal documents. And Festinger was not only making stuff up, he knew he was making stuff up. He had a conclusion in mind, and the story was too good to change what happened. And what Festinger didn't tell people is that he and some other researchers infiltrated the group. They weren't neutral observers. They went to the group meetings and they claimed that they also believed in the Guardians and that they were looking forward to being rescued by the extraterrestrials. And there were so many of them. At some points, up to a third of the group were people aligned with Festinger. A third of the group were just researchers pretending to believe. So the ranks swell, they're up 33% because all these new people came in. And the people weren't just sitting back listening. They had questions and they had ideas. And Festinger himself, after the flood doesn't happen, he stays up late with all these people. 4 a.m. comes around. They all know the flood is not happening. There is no worldwide flood. And they start talking. And he starts asking questions about what they're going to do now. And he doesn't just ask questions. He starts proposing solutions to them. He starts suggesting that maybe it was their own righteousness that changed the events. And the members of the group go, yes, that's right. That is what it is. They didn't come to these ideas themselves. Festinger planted those ideas. He promoted those ideas. So if anybody was hanging out in the group afterwards, it's kind of because of Festinger. It's because he was viewed as an important member of the group, and he was giving them ideas about how they could stay part of the group. And it's simply not true that people stuck around. People actually did give up on this group. The leader herself, Dorothy Martin, gave up. She didn't keep things going. She still remained a conspiracist, and she still liked to talk about the end of the world, but she learned her lesson. Don't put a date on it. She used the Bible verse to let everybody know, hey, we can't know the day or the time, because she got burned. And many of the group, most of the group, in fact, left the ideas behind. They weren't interested after it didn't work out. And they would have done it sooner if Festinger wasn't there planning ideas. And this This stuff is in his personal papers. He didn't destroy it. He had it right there. And he came out, so he wrote this report, and then he wrote a popular book afterwards. And in his book, he made the case even stronger that this is the way things went. He changed the narrative. And what's ironic about this is that he had a preconceived notion about what was motivating people, and he didn't change his idea based on the evidence. He changed the evidence to fit his idea, which was what he was proposing happens.
And isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Thank you, Alanis. It is ironic. Okay, second thing that comes up, and if you look up Festinger, the first thing everybody will tell you is also you should look into the Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment was conducted by this guy named Philip Zimbardo, and it happened in 1971. And he recruited a bunch of Stanford students, and he broke them up into groups. He had one group of prisoners and one group of guards. And he went so far as to have all of the prisoners mock arrested by the San Jose police. People, or the Santa Clara police, some police somewhere came and locked these people up, put them in handcuffs, brought them to Stanford, put them in a basement, and then a group of students acted as the guards. And what Zimbardo observed is that over time, the guards got crueler. They got meaner and meaner and more authoritarian, and these were just normal people. And Zimbardo was saying it's the situation. The situation can turn people into devils. They weren't like this at all before they went into the experiment, but the situation created monsters out of them. And Zimbardo went on to talk all about the Nazis and the SS, and he talked about Abu Ghraib in Iraq with the US military. He actually testified about how this is what happens in prison guard settings. And this has all been thoroughly debunked. Zimbardo's own paperwork shows that the guards were being coached to be cruel. Zimbardo and his associates, his fellow researchers, were telling the guards, hey, is there any, do you think you could be meaner? Have you thought about being meaner? And one of the students who was playing the guards, he thought it'd be fun to take on the persona of a mean Southern prison guard. He intentionally put on a persona, and others just kind of followed suit and went along with him because they thought that's what they were supposed to do. Zimbardo said that this thing got so out of hand that at one point, one of the prisoners went nuts. He started screaming. He was inconsolable. They had to release him because of the mental distress he was under. And it turns out that student acted that way because he had an exam that he needed to get to, and this thing went on for days. And he realized he needed to go take his exam, so he had to get out of it somehow. And so he just put on this thing that he had gone nuts and had a mental breakdown. So they let him out so he could go take his exam, and he went and just walked out and didn't go to a hospital, didn't get put in a straight white jacket or anything like that. And if anything, Zimbardo's Stanford Prison Experiments are now an example. They're still being taught, but now they're an example of how not to do psychology, how not to do social experiments. The third thing is just this week, a man named Paul Ehrlich passed away. Paul Ehrlich is quite famous because he came out with this idea called the population bomb. I've talked about Ehrlich before. I'll remind you all, this is a pro-natalist podcast. That doesn't mean I want to have all the babies. I'm just in favor of all of you having all the babies. I want more people. People are the most important commodity on the planet. People's brains are exactly what we need to fix the problems that the planet faces. And Ehrlich came out with this idea that that's actually the opposite, that the biggest stressor on the planet is people. And that there's too many people, there's going to be too many people, and it's going to ruin everything, and everybody's going to starve. By the year 2000, half the planet's going to starve. There's nothing we can do about it. This is awful. It's terrible. And Ehrlich got these ideas because he went to Delhi in 1961 or something like that. And I don't know if you've been to Delhi, but it is a crowded city. And he did not like how overpopulated it was. And all he could imagine is the entire world like this. And what Ehrlich didn't see coming was something called the Green Revolution. An agriculturalist actually invented genetically modified foods. And without that, people would have been starving. But because we have genetically modified foods, we can grow crops in places where we couldn't grow them before. They're much more drought resistant now, much more disease resistant than they've ever been before. GMOs save lives. And that's some of you are screaming right now because you can't stand the idea that GMOs might be useful or helpful to people, but it's true. They really do save lives. The other thing about Ehrlich's research is that it was just wrong. Even though he didn't know that the genetically modified foods were coming along, his math was off. It was much more doomsday, much bigger doomsday scenario than even his own math predicted. And there's two basic camps of economics, and I'm really dumbing this down. Really, really, really flattening this out. But for the purposes of this conversation, these are the two ideas. One idea is that wealth is a pie, and it is a certain size pie, and all you can do is divide up the pie. And you can decide how to divide it up, but the pie is the pie. The other idea is that economics and wealth are a balloon, and they can grow and they can get bigger. And progressives in academia are really on board with the idea that it's a pie that needs to be divided up. And Ehrlich was their man. He was their man who was showing that the pie is limited, that resources are scarce, and there's nothing we can do about it. And as a result, he was highly esteemed and highly praised. And Robert George, I mentioned him last week. He's a professor at Princeton, also a pro-natalist. He had this to say when Paul Ehrlich passed away. By the way, just 3 years ago, Paul Ehrlich was again featured on 60 Minutes, like he was a credible source, like he was a man of integrity, when his ideas have been thoroughly debunked. This is what Robert George had to say about Paul Ehrlich.
Just to give you a flavor of the hubris and asininity of the late Paul Ehrlich, here's something he said in response to his having been demonstrably and indeed spectacularly wrong in his predictions of the catastrophes that would result from overpopulation.
If I'm always wrong, so is science, since my work is always peer-reviewed, including the population bomb, and I've gotten virtually every scientific honor. Sure, I've made some mistakes, but no basic ones.
The one bit of truth in that bizarre statement is that Ehrlich did indeed receive many honors. That, alas, tells you just about everything you need to know about the sorry condition of the scientific and, more broadly, the academic establishment.
That's right. If he was wrong, then so is science. It's not his fault. There's no personal accountability here. It's science's fault because of all the honors and awards he got. He was just doing science. And he wasn't doing science. He was actually doing science poorly. We all need to have intellectual humility. Paul Ehrlich needed it, so do you. So do I. Here's the deal. If you're gonna say trust the science, you better have really, really good evidence for what you're proposing. You can't use it as a thought-stopping technique. You gotta back up your claims. And if you're not doing that, then you're hurting the rest of society. You're hurting everybody else who needs to rely on science. You're hurting everybody who needs to make a scientific claim. But I could be wrong. If you think I am, let me know. Let me know why. I had fun and I hope you did too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm just trying to chill, let my mind be still. Then boom, out of nowhere, here comes a real flashback attack. Brain playing its tricks like, why the hell am I thinking about this? I'm back at the party, I'm 7 years old, blowing out candles. Wait, that ain't my own. Mom yanking me back, whispers in my ear. That ain't your cake, son, great disappear. I didn't ask for this, nah, I never signed up. Why my brain gotta dig all this cringe back up? Ain't no warning, ain't no cue, ain't no button to skip. It just hits and I sit in this shame I relive. I didn't ask for this, didn't need that clip. Didn't wanna rewatch me being dumb as a kid. Didn't ask for this, brain, give me a break. I ain't need that reminder, it's a slap to the face. Oh great, now I'm 13, standing in line, trying to ask how Lisa got my words all intertwined. Hey you, wanna, never mind. She just laughs, and my soul flatlines. And skip to the movies, I'm feeling real slick. 2 for Spider-Man, sir, sold out pick. I freeze like an idiot, blank in the head. Could've picked another flick, but I just turned red. I didn't ask for this, nah, I never signed up. Why my brain gotta dig all this cringe back up? Ain't no warning, ain't no cue, ain't no button to skip. It just hits and I sit in this shame I relive. I didn't ask for this, didn't need that clip. Didn't wanna rewatch me being dumb as a kid. Didn't ask for this, brain, give me a break. I ain't need that reminder, it's a slap to the face. Why you gotta do this, man? What's the deal? Like I needed to relive that job interview spiel. Stutter my name, shook the boss's left hand, spilled water on the desk, still don't understand all the time at Burger King. Dumb as a rock, yo, let me get a Big Mac. Wait, now that's wrong, got my zipper down, middle of the street. Walking like a king, feeling like a freak. And don't even start on my X-Man, please. Brain plays that fight on repeat just to tease. I argue about something so petty, so dumb, like why she ordered fries when she said she'd get none. Now she gone, and I sit here sick to my gut while my brain press rewind like, bro, guess what? Didn't ask for this, but I guess it's too late. Memories like a horror show, jump scare parade. No escape, no mute, no off switch. Now I guess I'm stuck with my past and I never ran in montage.